Welcome to the Third Space Podcast, you guys. I'm your host with my co-hosts, Wes Brian and Brian Boucher, and today we're talking post-traumatic stress disorder.
We want to let,
symptom,
whatever. Yeah.
condition.
We've already done this podcast once before, guys. So just know that my audio was hot trash, and it takes us about 2 weeks to schedule our lives because we're both busy dads, affiliate owners. So this is part redo of this particular subject that came to Wes actually through the Raise and Health Fitness Festival. So Wes, I'd love to tell you about how we got here. Why would we talk about something like stress disorders?
Because somebody asked me to,
Yeah.
which is awesome. Because
I was
I
like,
feel
hey,
like, most people
you,
I feel like aren't willing to, let alone go up to somebody and be like, hey, I know that you have post-traumatic stress, which I've been clinically diagnosed with it. And I would really appreciate, this is what that person said to me at your Raise and Health Fitness Festival, if you could talk about it, because I have it too. And it's really hard to talk to other people about it. And I would love to hear a conversation of other people that are going through it. And I was like, frick, yeah, I will. That'd be amazing. Because it did a few things for me in that moment, Brian. It showed me that being vulnerable and opening yourself up to the world and telling people that you have post-traumatic stress and that you deal with these traumas helps other people, even if you know you're not helping other people. So thank you. You know who I'm talking about. The person that came up to me and said, hey, can you talk about this? Because you made me feel so good in that moment. And I really appreciate that. And the other reason why I want to talk about it is to honestly normalize it more and to make people less afraid of saying that they might have something like this going on, so that hopefully they can go get help. Because I didn't know I had this going on, but like we were just talking about like sleep and stuff and why we can't get sleep or why we eat down the house or why we do this. And there's so many symptoms out there that are happening and triggers that are happening that people have. And they're like, oh, I don't know. I just need to figure this out, or I just need to do whatever. And it's like, no, there's professional help out there that can really, really help you a lot if you just know the signs and the symptoms and what's going on from it. So what I would kind of hope to do is actually, let's talk just a little bit, Brian, about the name post-traumatic stress. And then what I think most people don't like
it's
is
the D. Nobody
D,
likes the D.
disorder.
Some people like the D, but other people
Not
do
this
not like the
D.
D. Yeah, no,
This
they don't
D.
like, the disease,
Yeah.
disorder.
Yeah. It's like I was given it, all of a sudden I have a disease.
Yeah, no, I want to just briefly touch on, it makes my heart so happy. It makes me on fire when I talk about Raise and Health Fitness Festival, and our 3 pillars for making that happen is self-responsibility, advocacy, and mentorship. And in this one episode right here, we have to have all 3 of those. You took responsibility to own it, and then you were advocating for others, and now all of a sudden somebody else is coming to you through the Raise and Health Fitness Festival, through that thing that we're doing. And all of it's one thing. The Third Space CrossFit, Mid-State CrossFit, Coast Range CrossFit, it's all like one monster in my brain. It's all one mission statement, but it comes with these 3 things. And so like, if you're going to manage something like post-traumatic stress, you're gonna need all 3. You're gonna have to be self-responsible. You're gonna have to advocate either for your buddy who might be experiencing this, or advocate for yourself. You're your own buddy. And then mentorship, and it comes in a bunch of different varieties. It could be people, it could be therapists, it could be family, it could be plant medicine. Like there's a bunch of ways to manage yourself. But let's get back real quick to this word disorder. Now, I feel like it's a bit out of vogue. It seems like other people that are a little bit more word conscious, where like, I like to throw things out there because I like missay things. And I'll like make some words up, and my coach Dan Mass will be like, "That's a made up word," but disorder's not a made up word, but like you could also go things like syndrome. You could say post traumatic stress. Go ahead. You have a few more in your brain. Post traumatic.
Honestly, I like post-traumatic stress.
Just leave it.
Stress.
PTS, post traumatic.
Yeah, because I don't think it really is a complex.
I actually like that better too.
Yeah, I don't think it's a complex. I don't think it's disease. I don't think it's anything. I think it's just you are stuck.
The manifestation of stress.
I mean, maybe we could call it stuck, honestly. Post-traumatic stressed stuck. Because you're stuck in a moment of time. And there's certain things that will trigger that in your environment, in your thoughts. I mean, you have five senses. You have your hearing, your eyesight, your touch, your smell, and your feeling. And if
Taste.
any and taste, sorry, and if any one of those things is reminded of that moment in time, you smell something from that moment, you feel something that felt like that moment, you hear something that sounds like that moment, you see something that looks like that moment, you taste something that tasted like that moment, your central nervous system is going to try to protect you. And when it tries to protect you, what it's going to do is fight or flight. And you're going to get a rush of hormones that come into your body to either help you run away, fight this thing, or now freeze and fawn. Freezing and fawning are two different things. Freezing is like you literally freeze, you can't do anything, you got the glossed over look. And fawning is where somebody will literally like sink in their seat and just become like nothing and just not care and just all of those are reactions to a stress that was so overwhelming, whether it be in a moment or over a long period of time at microdoses, that it's stuck in your central nervous system. And the way to get it unstuck is through talk therapy, EMDR, CPT, which is cognitive processing therapy, um, talking to friends, finding a mentorship, plant medicine, other medicines, but it's not on your own. That's what it's
Yeah,
not.
yeah, I do want to say just briefly that I have not been diagnosed with PTS. Like what I have been diagnosed with is an episode of extreme grief.
Mm.
So I worked,
This is a great moment
yeah,
to make a distinction between the two.
yeah. And so I've always been a bit of a go-getter in the different worlds that I lived in. For about 20 years, I wanted to be at the top levels of the regional emergency medical systems. I wanted to run their clinical departments. I wanted to be part of the reason why different drugs got introduced into different systems and why and at what dosages, and really cultivate some high level stuff. And I was actually living in San Jose, California, when my family lived in Atwater, California, like 2.5 hour drive away, 2 hour drive away with traffic and whatnot. It could be like four. Without traffic, it could be 1 hour 45 minutes if you drove slightly over the speed limit. But
That's like my home. Totally. Same
yeah,
thing down the slow. Yeah.
yeah. And so I had been working as a paramedic on a helicopter for nearly 5 or 6 years at that point. I had seen all sorts of crazy stuff, but I was always able to compartmentalize. I
Mm-hmm.
was able to put it in my little bucket. And my
Mm-hmm.
wife would tell me, "You're always a little funny when you're going in. You're always a little funny when you're coming back. It takes you a little while to get better." But I never
What
really
did she
noticed it.
mean by funny?
I would be a bit aloof. I'd be a bit aloof preparing myself for shift, and I'd be a bit aloof when I was coming off shift. But
Mm.
here's the thing about that is I also had a young son at the time. My Liam was not even a year old, and I was doing this thing called in my own brain called sacrificing my present for a better future. I was mortgaging my present for a better future because I wanted to get a nursing degree because I felt like that could leverage what I wanted to do uh, better because nurses are just held in a higher regard. You're able to get different jobs versus being a paramedic. It is just that it is the nature of the beast.
I'm always so surprised with that
Yeah,
too,
it's
because
totally
I
a real
feel
thing, man.
like
It's totally a real thing.
paramedics have some amazing in the field stuff that most nurses don't have to understand the mechanism of injury, which can help out so much more in the nursing
Yeah,
station.
it
You know,
just
so,
is what it is. It just is
yeah,
what it is.
it just
And
is what it is.
it is. It's a bummer, but it is. And so uh, while I'm in San Jose, my father, who was Pentecostal minister, a social worker, obviously my dad. He was very much like my spirit animal
I
that
love
we would,
hearing you talk about your dad. By the way,
yeah,
you light up, brother, and you could
yeah,
just
he's my
see that
dude.
like
He's my
you
dude.
guys,
Grateful
yeah, you.
Dead, Grateful Dead fan, big 70s rock guy, like just a good dude. You can talk about anything with him. He was like that with everybody.
That's
He
awesome.
got into a motorcycle accident and died. Just,
Yeah.
do you know how many motorcycle accidents I've been to, bro? Do you know how many times I've
Uh,
like
Let me honestly guess,
ungogged?
like at least 3 dozen.
Yeah, like 3 dozen is a very reasonable number. And there's
Yeah.
an assortment of injuries associated with that. There's the very benign, and they're like, oh, shit. Like I've
You
been to
lost your
all
leg.
of them. Yeah, I
Look
have
at that.
seen that. I've seen 2 people's boots not be attached to their body from a motorcycle accident. Like I've
Yeah,
seen
me as
that.
well. Me as well.
And so, and I've
And
seen
this is
people
it
die.
though. Like 1 second, not to interrupt you, but
Yeah, no,
I'm
you're fine.
laughing. I'm laughing about somebody losing their leg.
It's not funny, but it's okay.
This is how we deal
Yeah,
with it.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, keep going.
He's from the military. I'm a first responder. This is how it is, guys. If you don't know the
Thank you.
community, then you just don't understand. And I actually had an athlete yesterday look at me and go like, "Why? How did your brain go there so fast?" I'm like, "I just this is how my brain works."
Because
And
I've seen it.
yeah, and so in that moment, I actually happened to be home, oddly, because I lived in San Jose, but I was in my own home. And the first thought I thought to myself is, I'm quitting the university in San Jose. I'm quitting everything. You can leave the universe in a blip. You
Oh,
can be present, and then you
yeah.
can not be present. And
I
even
think
though
that's
I
a
had
great
seen
sign
that,
of stress.
yes. And so I immediately went into this very significant years long spiral.
Mm.
It took multiple years for me to really get grip of this. And I went to therapy, and I quit a couple of jobs, started a new one. That's the exact opposite of what they tell you what to do. They say, don't change anything, ride it out. And I was like, no, change everything about my life and
Well, you're
start
trying to run
over.
away. You're trying to
I
run
was
away from
I
everything that might remind you of
afraid of death. I was angry at the universe because it existed.
I
Like
think
I was just
that's a
yeah,
common symptom is anger.
yeah. I just was like, anytime you can leave I lost my faith in God. Like it was a quite a number of years. And then when I finally went to therapy, and she's like, you just have really bad grief. And I was like, that's super unhelpful. I do not identify as a grieving like son right now. Like I didn't like the word. I didn't like just like people don't like the word disorder. I didn't want my feelings to be, oh, you're grieving still. I'm like,
Like it's just
it's
so funny how
2019.
it's just so funny
Mm-hmm.
how important words are. How
Yeah.
important it is that what you say to your athlete, like you don't understand that you need to take a second and really think about the words you're about to say to people sometimes, because even saying something like, "Oh, you're grieving,"
Like, fuck you.
right? Like me, I'm like, what's wrong with that? Yeah, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that at all. And you're like,
Yeah.
F you, man, I'm not grieving. It's like you have to be so careful with the words that you use around people with that have been through shit.
Yeah.
And all of us have been through something in some way, you know?
Yeah. Then a couple of years later, in the peak of COVID, my father-in-law was having a manic episode, and it was also about a year long, and it was complicated. I would call to get him into treatment centers for like psychological disorders, and vet him with a counselor and get his medicines sorted out. But instead, he'd sit in ERs for weeks and weeks at a time. He was arrested for a moment, and it was all very complicated. It wasn't anybody's fault. It was all just sort of happening to us and around us, but it wasn't happening to us. It was like this other thing that was happening. Um, and it was like always in the background, but because he wasn't present with us, he was in these other institutions, and you couldn't go into them, you couldn't see him, everything was on COVID lockdown. It was a disaster. I'd be on the phone for hours just trying to get him services, either through the county or through the caseworkers inside the facilities. And I don't mean like psych facilities, I mean like he was just sitting in an ER.
That's what I'm saying.
and
Dude. This is like, right when
and
you
so
said
then I'm angry again.
you said he got arrested.
Yeah, he did. It all started when he was having this very odd manic episode, and
I think that this is
we didn't know what to do. We didn't know
I
what to
think
do.
this
And
is a
honestly, the cop didn't
societal
know what to do either.
yeah, this is a societal problem, is
Yeah,
that we don't talk about this stuff enough. It's not normalized enough. So when we come across it, it's like, we don't know what to do. Put them in handcuffs. Sit
that's
them
essentially
there
what
for
happened.
literally 3 hours in handcuffs. We'll stand around them. Don't say a word to them. I've seen this happen to our neighbor, where this poor little kid, he's a teenager. And he's obviously, I came home, there's cop cars everywhere around my house. I'm going, what the fuck's going on? You know, like, is everybody okay at my house? And I look over and my poor neighbor, he's a teenager, sitting on his porch there in handcuffs with cops standing around him, not saying a word. And everybody's completely silent. Nobody's saying nothing. And then I see this caseworker. I know she's a caseworker. She's got a big old freaking clipboard in her hand. She's come walking down the street. And I'm like, oh, the poor kid tried to commit suicide.
Yeah.
This is not how you handle it.
No,
You put
it's
him,
the
and I
antithesis of that.
understand that there's a moment in time where someone is in a psychotic episode, and I would have needed them to put my mother in handcuffs for sure, because she had these episodes before. But then there's got to be a better way for us to use our resources to help these people, other than just, we're going to arrest you and put you in an ER for
Yeah.
hours.
Don't even get me started. I have an entire hypothesis about why this is all fucked. And so
I like that you have an hypothesis. You're like, no, I
I
haven't
do.
figured it out.
Yeah, I haven't figured it out. I just know why it's broken. I don't know how to fix it, but I know it's broken. I know why it's broken. And it's the Reagan era. It's all Reagan's fault. But he didn't mean to.
Yeah, we can really blame that asshole for a lot.
Yeah, it's not his fault. It's not his fault specifically, but he did create a problem. And this all ended. That chapter ended in this really crazy morning when my father-in-law killed himself. My wife had to do stuff. It was very complicated. I made the declaration of death. My Chevy Malibu, my 2010 Chevy Malibu, can go over 100 miles an hour.
Let's go.
It has done it one time, and it's fine. She's fine back then. That was the end. That was the end of that chapter, and the beginning of the next chapter. And it took my navigating a solo effort with my family around and my wife near, and I took a hero's dose, they call, over 3.5 grams of psilocybin mushrooms by myself, and with a Costco table laid out, and acrylic paints, and big canvases, and my children nearby, and my wife was aware, on a beautiful sunny day. And there was all of those moments before, and nothing's fixed, right? Nothing changed about our scenario. We were still dealing with this thing that had happened to us, and we're still dealing with this thing that's happened to us. And my wife is going to be dealing with this thing that's happened to us for the rest of her life. Forever. And she doesn't get to take those visuals away. She doesn't get to take those moments away. And then there's the after, though. There's a clear line in the sand. And that thing that I did, in all intents and purposes, that's totally an illegal experience. But it was a life altering moment where I owned my post-traumatic stress, even though I wasn't diagnosed with post-traumatic stress. I was diagnosed or told I was grieving. I think I would have actually handled post-traumatic stress better.
That's so funny, man, because there would have been people that were freaked out if you said the opposite. And if you said grief, they would have been totally fine with it.
Well, it would have made sense. It would have made sense.
That's just it. Like, all of these words don't matter. It's the feelings. Yeah. The fact that people are connecting with each other to help each other through these moments in their lives that are extremely difficult. And we're just too busy. We're just too busy. We don't have enough time to sit with somebody for a period of time and to listen to this. And I think on the other end is that most of us
imagine being that cop. Imagine being that cop for your neighbor.
Could be that you're ill-equipped, or it could be that it also triggers something in you.
Oh,
and
man,
it's hard for you to think about because of your friend that did the same thing when you were 16 or whatever. And we just don't talk to each other enough about the things that have happened to us, so that we are aware enough to be able to use language that is appropriate for these people that we are surrounded by. And that also takes energy to do. And I've had a conversation with somebody one time that took me a lot of patience, where they were just they didn't understand post-traumatic stress, basically. And the reason why they didn't understand is because they had been through some really traumatic and stressful things. They're a firefighter, and so they had seen some stuff, you know what I mean? The only difference The only difference that I've been able to find between people that can see stuff, have stuff happen to them and grieve it and get over it and move on and still have it, a little bit in the background, but like it doesn't run their lives, was their childhood. They had a good childhood or they had a shit childhood. And if you had a good childhood and you had a base underneath you that said, look, bad things can happen, you can get in trouble, you can fuck up, you can really have bad things happen, and there's still people around you that are going to catch you, they're going to help you, they're going to make you feel good, you have parents that cared about you. They taught you that bad things can happen and it's okay. But if you didn't have parents like that, like I didn't, my parents taught me that if bad things happen, more bad things happen, and more bad things happen, and more bad things happen. So when a bad thing happened to me, my mind immediately went to, when's the next bad thing going to happen because of this bad thing that just happened? Versus if you have a good upbringing, which is why it's so important that we have present, loving, kind, patient, self-controlling, integral, wise parents in this world to help navigate these children so that when they experience these traumatic events, which they're going to experience a traumatic event at some point in their life. Like if you go your whole life without experiencing a traumatic event, you are an anomaly.
Well, look,
You're an anomaly.
not to be a podcast that brings up Joe Rogan, but I do actually like when he says the most difficult thing you've ever experienced, the most painful thing you've ever experienced is the most painful, is the most traumatic thing you've ever experienced. So if that's stubbing your toe, the most extreme feeling that you've ever felt,
There it
then
is, there's
like,
a ceiling.
but if you have been to war,
Mm-hmm.
then the most extreme
There's a
traumatic thing
ceiling.
you've ever seen. Yeah. So that's why
But
I
both
actually really,
ceilings, but here's what we have to be able to do.
yeah.
I have to, somebody who has been to war, has to be able to see that both of those ceilings are just as difficult for both of those people. The same
Yeah.
way we as coaches are able to see that this 315-pound bar for this person that should be lifting it and this 35-pound bar for this person who should be lifting it feel just as difficult for both of them, because it's where they are in their lives and their athletic pursuits and their muscle mass and everything, and they have a foundation. This person that's lifting 315 pounds and should be had a foundation of you underneath them, helping them get there, showing them they can do it. This other person doesn't have that foundation yet. They're on shaky foundation. Your job is to give them the stimulus that is going to get them eventually up to that level, while recognizing that the stimulus you're giving them, while it looks completely different, is exactly the same. So the
See,
stimulus that
I
Brian
really like that
feels.
you brought that there, because what you're talking about is resiliency. And
Mm,
so I
mm,
want you to keep going, but
but
just in this barbell analogy, just think the
you
word
have to
resilience.
have resiliency plus mentorship equals getting better. If you can have, I have resiliency through the wing. Here I am. I'm still resilient. If it was up to, if I let my life and my sister let our lives get to us, we would be drug addicts in a gutter. And we should be. We literally should be. That's what my parents were. And like that should be the path that we went. But we resisted that path. We did the uncomfortable things that most children wouldn't know how to do. And we got ourselves to where we are. That doesn't mean it's better. It means that we were just able to deal with discomfort for longer, and we still are. We still are. Your wife, she's dealing with discomfort forever. There's discomfort going on, and that's okay. That's okay to have discomfort. Just like at CrossFit, people come in there and they're like, this is too hard. It hurts. I'm not sure. I don't know what to do. This doesn't feel right. And you're like, it is. It is right. It's
This
good.
is
Actually, keep going.
Yeah,
Because if you keep
you're literally
going,
lifting their floor. You're literally lifting their floor.
this is therapy. This is medication. This is exercise. This is diet. This is sleep. These are things that are uncomfortable for most people to really focus on and do at first. But they are the things that are going to get you to the goal, whatever that goal is, whether it be physical health or mental health. Uncomfortable situations that you know are positive are going to get you there. What we're missing are the people and professionals to help get you.
There's so many things that can trigger these events too, where you can have this post-traumatic stress and you could be doing all your resilient practices. Let's say, for example, we've got somebody who's working on it. And I actually think this guy that has stirred this conversation between you and I is doing the work. But I'll tell you, I'll tell you something that
Proud of you.
will, yeah, we're proud of you, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're talking about is, what I'm trying to say is, you could hear a tone. Like, I'll give you a for example of a not. It doesn't trigger me, but I do get memories.
Yeah.
The choo choo train iPhone alarm sound. Choo choo
I
is the
must have been.
tone. You know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That tone was the tone that our base used on the cell
Uh,
phones for us to get a call to go in the helicopter to do stuff. Like, if you heard the double choo choo and we put on all as loud as we could, tones would then go off at the base, and then we'd get phone calls and we'd begin to start our matrices for doing stuff.
dude, my daughter's up.
That's awesome. That's awesome. She'll
What are
be
you
good.
doing up? Jun, come here. What are you doing up right now? It's so
It's 6
early.
a.m.
It's
It's
6
6
a.m.
a.m., bro.
No? She's my
She
early
need.
riser, though. She gets up and watches the sunrise with me all the time.
I
So
love
this is,
that. I
yeah.
love
Sorry,
that.
keep going. I was
No,
just
you're
so
great.
surprised. I heard the door open.
Yeah,
I'm like, what's going on?
let her live her life. I'm sure she'll be super well behaved at 6 o'clock in the morning.
No, she
And
is. She's really
yeah,
good
it's
at
my
the month.
son's the same way. And
Yeah.
uh,
Sorry to interrupt
I
you,
lost
man.
my train of thought. Where was I?
Choo choo. Choo choo
Okay,
train.
yeah. So but that could be a triggering moment, just like you were saying a little while ago that, like, you could smell something, and I know that bangs mess you up. Like, anything that's like a bang or a clatter, or
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
something that would be like that kind
Yep.
of thing.
Yep.
But like, you could be doing all the work,
Yep.
and you could hear something as simple as, like, maybe the pot and pan being put back into the put it
For,
back into the cupboard, or I
for
could hear
me,
choo
it's different.
choo. Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
It's like,
Tell us
but
about
that's
you,
the thing.
Wes.
But that's the thing, though. It's like you
Yeah,
said, like, it's not a train. It's the iPhone choo choo train. And for me, it's not a,
specifically.
yeah, for me, it's not a bang. For me, it's the bang that gets into your body. It's the,
Yeah,
it's
like
the
a
808
firework.
drop. You know what I mean? It's the, that's what makes me go, oh, I'm going to throw up.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like those things. Why I think a lot of people get confused because they'll have somebody in their lives who they're like, wait, that was a loud noise and you didn't get it, like, confused by that, or you didn't get whatever by that, but then there was a loud noise and now all of a sudden you are, and people will be like, oh, they're just making it up. And it's like, you need to listen to the specifics. Like, there's like these signals, these triggers that they have in our bodies are very specific, and they've learned to drown out the other ones that sound like that but aren't like that through resiliency over time. So, like, I can watch fireworks now, honestly, if I'm watching them, I'm like, cool, I like fireworks. It's when these assholes over here behind our house that literally go down to Mexico and get like B1s will on in freaking October, we'll set them
Hmm.
off at 2 a.m. and I'm asleep in my bed and they go off. And this happens at least once a month, probably here. And I'm
Yeah,
like, and
same.
I'm up and I'm running down my hallway and I get halfway down my hallway in my house and I go, I'm in my house. I'm not in Afghanistan. I'm not in Kuwait. I'm not in Iraq. Like, oh, let's go back to bed. And I don't even realize I'm halfway down the hallway until I'm halfway down the hallway. That's the difference between post traumatic stress and grieving something.
I think there's a second layer to that too. I think it's
Yeah.
also, once you're resilient, how do you respond to that? So, like, so let's say you have a diagnosis of PTS and you're working your way through it. I think there's a level of acceptance and forgiveness that maybe some people will give to themselves, or grace. We're like, hey, I had a moment.
Mm,
I went straight down the hallway. I was having a moment there. You recollect yourself. You work on your breath work. You give yourself some sort of internal affirmation. Hey, I'm in my house, like my
mm,
loving family. Look, June's awake. How wonderful, right? That,
mm.
or the more disordered version of that is, you don't forgive yourself right then and there, and you say, look at me, I'm a wreck, and nobody would love a wretch like me. My brain
Yeah,
is broken. And
yeah,
those are
yeah,
actually the
yeah.
much more dangerous, insidious things that'll lead people to want to do things like hurt themselves, or
But also,
find crutches that are unhealthy.
the most normal things too. Like, that's what your brain is going to go to try to protect yourself first. Is it's going to get angry. And when it gets angry, it's just trying to go into protection mode. That's it. It's trying to protect you. But you can snowball that anger into negative thoughts. That's when it becomes the problem. You
Yeah.
can use it as actually a positive, though. And this is what I've learned to do, is that when I have a trigger that goes off and I start to feel that trigger and I want to get angry about it, I do. Internally, I get angry about the situation that I was in, that I was put in, which was a situation that supervisors were just not doing their job in a way, you know what I mean? And I can be angry about that. And I can be angry about the fact that we went to war for something that we shouldn't have gone to war for. And I can be angry about the fact that my neighbors are setting these things off at 2 a.m. because that's all normal stuff to be totally angry about. And then I can normalize that anger. And when I can normalize that anger and say that, like, this is totally normal for me to feel these things, that's when the anger levels start to come down a little bit over a long period of time, is that you're able to say that this is normal. And I think that's the whole reason why we're doing this podcast, is to show people that if they're feeling, thinking, saying, doing these things that other people consider not normal, you're more normal than you think. You're way
Yeah.
more
Heck yeah. I
normal than
love
you think
that.
for all of this. And it's like, what do we do is what matters. I have this thing that's happening and I just don't know what to do. Well, it doesn't matter because I got to go on with my life. It's time to go to work. It's time to come home and do the kids. It's time to go to the gym. It's time to go do whatever. And then I get home and I still have these feelings. I'm still upset. I'm still whatever. Here's what you do. Here's what you do. We speak from experience here on this podcast and in our lives. We try to. We will give advice when we are subject matter experts in an area that we have studied and worked on. And maybe we haven't been through those things, but this is not one of those areas. This is an area where not only me and Brian, I wouldn't say we could call ourselves subject matter experts, but anecdotally,
Yeah.
I could think we could, and also very close and near to our hearts. So the things that we're going to explain to you that we do, Brian talked about how he took a hero dose, went into the backyard, did some painting, and that was his moment to help him overcome the biggest part of that stress that happened. For me, I have to do micro things throughout the day. It's not like one event that I do. It's like all day long, I'm doing things to help myself stay at homeostasis. Let's go through that stuff. Maybe some stuff that you've seen your wife do, some stuff that you've done, stuff I've done, stuff my wife has done to help me too, I think would be important. Let's go
So
through
the
that stuff.
so for my Gabby, I don't think that I don't think this makes me sad a little bit, but I don't think that my wife has actually quite found the other thing besides like family time and exercise that really is like we're reading a lot more books. We took ownership of our business. But she doesn't quite have an outlet just yet that we could point to and be like, this is your other thing. I have recently, over the last several weeks, uh, put a lot more emphasis on my own personal like art, as in like pens and pencils and sketch
Dude, you've been
pads. And
crushing it. You've been
yeah, I
crushing it,
have.
bro.
I'm all
He's
over
been
it.
sending me these pictures of his art he's been doing, and I'm like, what?
Yeah,
I didn't know you
I
were
do a lot of
good.
like female figure drawing, and I do a lot of
Yeah.
like odd like hippy dippy stuff, but it always sort of revolves around like female form and
Very
so
90s kind of like
yeah,
art,
like
like you see a Limp
very
Bizkit
90s art
album,
for
Limp Bizkit
sure.
album, like it's going on Limp Bizkit for sure.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. There's a lot of that going on. And punk rock. And so, but I can't point to something for my Gabby. She does some coloring. She likes to do what she wants to do is like home repair. I think if my wife could do like home repair all the time, that just fills her cup so much. And so we're doing stuff like that.
What a great thing
I
to
know,
have your
right?
spouse want to do.
Yeah, no, I think
Like,
when like
let's dig
my
into
the
that more.
yeah,
Let's do that
I
more.
know, I know. She's so handy. And so like I'm like I like to do art and draw pretty pictures.
That's
And
me too, dude. On the
and
same.
Gabby's like, we're gonna put in the baseboards. And I'm like,
Let's
I
put it in
love
the
you.
gutters.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But I really think that's where like if she can get into a little bit more home improvement stuff and like be that chick, then I think that's gonna really help her as the third thing. If this is the third space, we believe
Yeah,
that
yeah,
family and exercise. But what is that other thing? I think when we're talking about mental health, you've got
man.
to have the thing that you do for you just because.
Yes.
Now,
What a great.
home improvement's a great problem to have. That'll improve our lives.
Oh
But
my God,
like,
right?
but you have
Well,
to
and
do it
that's
because
what I
you
was
want to
thinking.
do it. Yeah.
Like if you have something that's not only beneficial to your triggers, so it helps you get past your triggers by doing something like that, but it also helps other people. Like that's usually not what I've heard people do when they do things to fill themselves up. Like it's a very selfish endeavor. You know, you're like, I'm going to go surfing, I'm going to go skating, I'm going to play the
Right.
drums, I'm going to draw, I'm going to take myself away from you guys for a period of time so that I can recenter myself. I can
Right.
ground myself. I could get myself back to homeostasis, whatever
Yeah,
you
but
want
there's
to
something
call
about
it.
like the measurement of the wood, the confirmation that it fits, the laying
I'm
of
not
the,
saying that it's I'm
yeah,
not saying that it's not a good thing.
it's
I'm saying
it's
that
definitely
it's
creative.
just I wish I had that
Yeah.
you
It,
know, like
but
push to
there are
do the gutters
tinkerers.
and
Yeah,
take down the palm trees and
there's the tinkerers out there that really
yeah.
also, I think they're the people that do car stuff. They're
Yeah, yeah,
definitely doing that. It's just a much
yeah.
more useful thing than my doodles. And
Totally, totally. And I
lean
wouldn't
into
say that at
that.
all. I think your
Yeah.
doodles can be very useful. They just haven't been applied in a useful way. And I think that that's honestly a great probably litmus test of if you're doing something for yourself or not, is that it really doesn't have to be applied to any type of making anything else better except you. That's it.
If I'm a better coach and a better husband and a better father and whatever order of operations is appropriate, like because I'm not watching TV or I'm not drinking beers and instead I'm just drawing, I would argue that that is definitely good for society. Um,
Literally, not yesterday, the day before. Yesterday was my sister's birthday. She's the most amazing human being in the world. And I painted her a painting. And it was about our lives, and it was very emotional and also cathartic while I was doing it. But here's what I got to do. I came home and I was like, kind of not looking forward to working on the painting, honestly, because it brought up a lot of stuff from our past. Every single time I did a stroke, I was just like, right now, I'm like, oh, I feel it. And I wanted to cry. But I did it with June in our garage with the door open, in the sun, shirts off. She was coloring, I was painting. I'm working on myself. I'm working on me and my sister's past. I'm giving her something that for her birthday that she's going to really love. And I'm getting to do it with my daughter too. Like, I think that a lot of times when people experience these things too, it might be pretty late in their lives, and it might be like their kids are teenagers, and they can't just be like, "Hey, let's go sit down and paint." Their kids are gonna be like, "Get out of here!" Like, I'm not painting with you. We don't do that, and so it's hard for people to change, and they feel like if I just start painting all of a sudden, I'm a different person. People are gonna make fun of me. I don't want to do this, or whatever they're thinking. And I think it's important that you just allow yourself to be curious about the things your body and your brain are naturally asking you to do. So if like you just feel this tug to go hiking and you never hiked before in your life, you're feeling this tug to draw and you've never drawn before. Like it's your body going like, we just need to stop, sit down for a second and do this damn thing so I can work through this stuff for a little bit, you know, and just slow it down. And I
yeah,
think that's all we're doing with these things is slowing it down.
anecdotal. There's a huge shift in I picked the pen and pencil back up to I picked beers up, and like it's like it
Yeah.
is very significant. It is very significant. I haven't touched a drink in days, and I've done a lot of drawing. I would not call that causation isn't correlation, but it seems pretty correlate.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a correlation for sure. That
and
could turn into a causation if done long enough,
yeah, yeah,
right? And that's everything with CrossFit. That's everything that we do. It's like what we're trying to get you to do in CrossFit when you walk into our gym is to do something that is uncomfortable long enough to make it not uncomfortable, to make it something you actually want to do that enhances your life. Of course, it's uncomfortable at first to sit down for a period of time when you have a to-do list that is this long and
to do
decide
list is significant.
to decide to draw instead, and asking yourself, how is that helping with my to-do list? It's not, but it is, because
Yeah.
you're going to be able to go back to that to-do list with so much more energy to tackle those things that you're going to get them done so much faster. and you're not going to spin your wheel within those things, which is what I think happens to most people with post-traumatic stress, is that they get stuck in their limbic system. They get stuck in the feelings and the emotions, and they can't pull themselves out of it because they don't have tangible things that they do to pull themselves out of it. Like, my tangible thing that I do is I skateboard, I exercise, I play the drums, I surf, I art. I do those things to pull myself out of it. And if I'm feeling the things coming back in me, I'm like, where's my pen? How can I sit here and just draw for a second?
Yep.
Okay, I don't have this opportunity. Okay, well, how can I get out in the side in the sun and meditate for just a second? And it's like, most people just don't even have the tools, let alone have they curated the tools, let alone they even know if they would like to do those things, because they're just like, whatever, I'm busy, I gotta go.
Yeah, and I think if we keep on pulling it into something like resiliency through diet and exercise to begin with, like we're talking about the next layer deep. If you're dealing with an episode, actually, I'll make a quick transition. We've transitioned. What we're talking about here is self-care, and I would imagine that for some people, it can't just be you and your brain and your CrossFit affiliate and you're making good food choices. Sometimes you are going to need medicine. Sometimes you are going to need a therapist. You're going to need to have these skills taught to you, or you're going to need like pharmacokinetic things inside of your body to regulate your central nervous system because it got haywire, because it got all mixed up during your formative years or during a drastic, incredibly traumatic incident where all the wires got frayed, and now you need some assistance. And because we're so blessed to live in 2024 with
Man,
such a
so lucky.
like we get to have Western medicine and whatever that and means, because there's a lot that
Dude,
could go there.
you have
So
so many opportunities for talk therapy or therapy in some way, apps, and it's like, if there was ever a time in our history to have post-traumatic stress or to have some sort of a trigger, it's now, and people will accept it now. Imagine if you lived in the 40s or the 50s or the 60s or the 30s or the
you'd be a
20s or
Hell's
the
Angel.
10s or the 100s. You would be a Hell's Angel,
Yeah,
100%. You would be a murderer. You would be
yeah.
a drug addict. You would be in jail. You would be a weirdo. You would be a woman. Like, it used to be considered that post-traumatic stress disorder,
A
or whatever
woman.
you want to
I
call
don't
it.
know.
This is why I'm going to make this bridge. Thank you for saying that, because I need to make this bridge about that. It's not that you're a woman and you have it. It's that they used to think that it was what did they call it? It was
Hysteria.
it was a problem of the placenta. They felt like it was because of this placenta specifically that this post-traumatic stress was showing up in females only. Then World War I happened, and all these men came back with it. They started to call shell shock, and then they started to call it battle fatigue in World War II. And they were still causing these, depressive and horrible thoughts that these women were having as a problem of the placenta. It was a female thing that only females got, and men had battle fatigue and men had shell shock. It wasn't until the 70s and 80s that people started to go, no, these men can have the same thing as these women, and we got to stop saying that this is it's a bitch thing. In a way, you're being a little bitch by not just getting over it and moving on. I can't
That's
tell
a
you how
huge
many
piece of it, right?
supervisors I
I'm a
had who
badass.
called me a bitch when I came to them and was like, dude, am I like, is this normal? Like, that freaked me out. And they're like, don't be a little bitch. It wasn't anything, bro. It's not like you're even in combat, dude. Chill out. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I am being a little whatever. Because of somebody back in the 20s and 30s who decided to go, yeah, that's a female thing. Because somebody decided to say that. So everybody else goes, yeah, he's right. Let's just follow along. And it takes somebody to go, wait a second. I don't feel that way. And I'm going to stand up. I'm going to be verbal about this. And I'm going to make sure that people know that are out there that are feeling this, that that's normal. And I'm just so grateful that I was able to have all of this happen to me in a time in our society where I can have a podcast about it,
Yeah.
take prescription medication to help me out, get a therapist, get it, like, get everything that I need in order to just live the rest of my life in a way that my kids are going to appreciate.
Yeah, there's only so many ambulances or helicopters in the area. So one of the things that would happen is you'd be guilted. You'd be guilted into going into shift. Like, there's nobody to cover your shift. Like, okay, I guess I'm
How
going
many people do
in.
you want to die
Yeah,
today,
yeah,
Brian?
like dumb shit like that. Not like it would resolve itself, right? But like that's how it
Yeah.
was. You go, oh, I can't call out. If I call out, then the aircraft will be down. And you're like, all right, well, I guess I'll go in, even if you're not ready to do that. And so that would be a real thing. The last time we had this conversation that we're having right now, you brought up all of the different cannabinoids that you would, and I wanted to briefly talk about that because that is helping me as well. Though I
Yeah,
don't know. Yeah.
I love
So,
talking about weed.
yeah. And so we're not advocating for anything. We're just giving you guys options.
I'm
Like,
a pretty big advocate for the marijuana, my friend. I'm not going
yeah,
to lie. And I think that almost everybody in this world could probably take it in some way if they knew what strain
yeah.
that fit well with them. And that's what you were talking about. So let's talk
See,
a
like
little bit about
CBD. I mean specifically more.
cannabinoids.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
cannabinoids, and
cannabinoids.
I know people are always going to lean, and maybe less these days. I think when people hear things like cannabis and marijuana, whatever word you want to use, I think they actually do sometimes think about CBD more than they think about things like just like THC. So I'm not
Good.
getting
That's the
stoned.
goal.
Don't get stoned just for the sake of getting stoned. There's a bunch of like other other so cannabinoids are
There's,
all over your body. These receptor sites are all over your body. There is a plant called cannabis that just is really, really good at going into those receptor sites. And there's a bunch of different ways that those receptor sites can express themselves. And
I
so,
mean, let's just talk about the fact that you have cannabinoid receptors inside of your body. You have literal mechanisms in your body that are going, hey, give that stuff to us. We'll take it. We'll use it.
yeah, for
You
sure.
don't have alcohol receptors in your body. You don't have cocaine receptors in your body. You don't have hard drug receptors in your body, but you do have marijuana receptors in your body. And they're specifically called cannabinoid receptors that take in certain cannabinoids. Now that we're starting to get this stuff legalized, we're actually getting good testing and good scientific studies done on this stuff where they're finding that there's not just THC and there's not just CBD. There's THCV, there's CBN, there's CBG. There's all of these different cannabinoids that are going to interact with your specific endocannabinoid system the best. So some people they'll smoke some weed with a friend in high school and they'll be like, I got way too paranoid and I'm never doing that again. Or they'll be like, dude, I just fell into the couch and I'm never doing that again. It was just awful. And it's just because there's so many different strains out there with so many different levels of cannabinoids. And also this is another one that you need to look up, terpenes. And it seems right now that it's the interaction between the different cannabinoids and the levels of those. So some you might have like Pineapple Express, which is a strain, or you might have like Jack Herrera, which is a strain, or you might have Sour Diesel, which is a strain. And each one of those strains are going to tell you that they have these different cannabinoids and these different terpenes in them. It's those levels of cannabinoids and terpenes that you're messing with to create the concoction that's perfect for your endocannabinoid system. Some cannabinoids will help you decrease stress. Some will help you elevate a little bit of peak stress so you can focus more. Some will help your body relax more and your mind will be more active. Some will help your mind relax more, but keep your body more active. It's these amazing hippies in the mountains over the last 80, 90
60
years.
years, yeah, it's a while.
Yeah,
Like 19,
that have been
2040s, not that far away. And,
dude, I mean, well, like the earliest signs of marijuana go all the way back to the Buddha era, where they can see that Buddhists and monks would use it back in the 1400s in order to get spiritually enlightened and to bring themselves closer to who they are. And if you actually there's a frequency that your brain goes into when you smoke certain cannabinoids that is pretty damn close to what they consider like the spiritual realm, And so I mean, we can get into the woo woo part, but really what you're looking for is when you pick up a jar of weed and you're going to smell it, Do you like it? If you like the smell, and this is why they talk about with cannabis, some people will be like, oh, that smells like gas, like literally like somebody spilled gas somewhere. And then some people will be like, oh, that smells like a skunk, like somebody like a skunk just sprayed in here. And some people will be like, that smells like pine needles. Like, why does it smell like there's pine needles in here? Those are the terpenes that you're getting out of it. And your endocannabinoid system will help you discover the right terpenes just by smelling it. So if you just smell it and it smells like gas, but you're like, kind of like it. Like,
I
I
don't
don't
hate the
know
smell of
why.
gas. I don't know. I
I
don't know
kind
what
of
you're
like the
into.
smell of gas, I guess. That strain may be what your body is asking for to help you overcome whatever it is your brain is having a hard time overcoming, because what cannabis does is it interrupts the signal. So when you're going into those, thoughts, which are your cognitive processing area, your prefrontal cortex is starting to just get into overdrive, and it's thinking of all the things that happened and all the things that can happen because of that. And what you need to do is interrupt those thoughts for a second. And that's what cannabis does. That's what psilocybin does. That's what alcohol does. That's
I
what
know for sure
all of
it's
these
not alcohol,
drugs
though.
do.
I know for sure, I say this from your mentorship and advocacy side of things. If you're having PTS symptoms, it's definitely not alcohol. Like it,
Why can you say that?
I don't know. It's just not very good for you. It's
Because you've done
so,
it. Because you've
yeah,
done it.
yeah,
Because you've tried
absolutely.
it over and over and
Um,
over again, right? And
and
I
we've
did
seen
too.
it over and we've seen it over and over and over again. I'm not saying
None
that
of
you
my
should,
friends who committed suicide because of post-traumatic stress were sober when they did it.
yeah, it's not alcohol. It
And
can't,
it wasn't when I say they weren't sober, I mean they had alcohol in their system.
yeah,
It wasn't that they were
it's,
smoking cannabis and decided to end it.
it's a depressant. It is legitimately a poison. There are no receptor sites for alcohol. All that happens is it gets you more and more intoxicated. So it's toxifying you to the point where you either find yourself in sleep, but it's not good sleep, or it's causing fatty liver disease. It's causing all of your lab values to go completely haywire. It's not alcohol. Like I can't
If
stress.
that's like if you're somebody that's out there going like, I don't know if I should, do something else or whatever, and we're not advocating for you to do anything. We're advocating for you to get help. And if you
Yeah,
feel like you have these symptoms of post-traumatic stress, I'm advocating for you to go get professional help. And that's exactly what me and Brian did, and that's what I'm still doing now on a weekly basis with my
I would call this
therapist.
me getting professional help. These conversations that we have
Yeah,
biweekly, they
yeah,
these I'm like on fire for like the next like 6 hours after that. I can just ride it out.
that's awesome.
So
But I think it's important that we go like, okay, look, I'm going to go get professional help, but if you're going to explore something else, it's important that you explore it from the
does this work for
context.
me?
Yes, is this going to
Yeah.
work for me? And don't be that idiot like I was who goes, this does work for me, even though it doesn't. And for me, that was the bar. That was alcohol. I would drink and drink and drink and drink and go, it's the only thing that I can do that makes this stuff just stop for a second. So I
Numb.
need to go out in there and do it. And then what would I end up doing? I'd end up sitting there watching something on YouTube that would make it worse, honestly. And I was drinking. And when I stopped drinking, it got really bad because I wasn't doing anything. And now I had just everything there all the time, nothing to interrupt it. So I had to have something else to interrupt it. And that's why I went to cannabis. Cannabis is the thing that helps me interrupt the thoughts. It's the thing that helps me bring myself back to homeostasis. It's the thing that helps me take care of myself so that I can take care of other people. I'm putting on the oxygen mask first. In a
Right.
way, it's just full of beautiful sour jack or sour diesel or pineapple express or whatever it is that's helping me honestly
And
be
you're
the best person.
exercising, and you're honest with your family, and
Yeah,
you're in a
I'm not.
CrossFit affiliate, and you're paying
This is
attention to your
not.
nutrition. This is
You
the
have to
extra.
go through. You have to go through the checklist, you guys. You got to
Yeah.
go through the. Am I getting the sleep I need? Am I eating the foods I'm supposed to? Do I have a group of people around me that are actually here to help me out? If you can check those boxes first, and it's still not working, and you're like, man, I'm exercising, I'm eating well, I'm sleeping well, I'm doing the things. This is where my therapist and my psychologists were able to say, or psychiatrists were able to say, yeah, Wes, you should do that. Because man, you're checking these boxes, brother, and we're really proud of you. And honestly, this sounds like a great thing for you to do. And when I got the go ahead from my therapist and my psychiatrist to do that, my wife was way more on the table too, of like, okay, this is probably a good idea.
Mhm.
So advocate for yourself, you guys, and be willing to be okay with not being okay. I think is all we're trying to say, is that it's okay to feel like, man, I'm angry, I'm sad, I want to run, I want to cry, I want to just do nothing, I want to whatever, and I don't know freaking why. I just know I feel this. And if you do, reach out to me. I would love
Right
to
here, bro.
talk to you.
We're right
Reach
here.
out to Brian. He would love to talk to you about it. Get his professional help, go get a therapist. I think it's ridiculous that there's any stigma around having a therapist. When we have physical coaches, why wouldn't we have mental coaches? Even if you don't have anything going on, I think you should have a therapist. I think they would help you tremendously, even if you had nothing going on. To sit there and talk to somebody once a week who's an outside perspective, who can help you with your life and make it better and is covered by insurance. Uh, yeah, we should all be doing that.
So
uh,
I heard these four H's, and it's sort of funny because it was about a spouse, and I'm gonna forget one of the H's, but it's like going into a conversation. Don't bull rush us. If you really need me to talk to you about something like this, let's schedule something. But like, there's four H's, and one of those H's I can't give you, but it's funny anyway. So it's like, do you want me to just hear you? You're having these moments. Do you need somebody to just hear you? Do you just need to like brain dump? I'll brain dump with you. Like, it's all good. I can compartmentalize. I can do that. Uh, do you want me to help through this problem? Do you want me to do we want to role play this a little bit and work your way through this? And are you going to listen to some of these things? Uh, do you need me to help you? Like, do you want me to fix something?
mm-hmm.
And go and try to get into something. And the fourth one is for your loved ones only. Or do you just need a good humping? Do you just need a good humping? And so, and
Wait,
I'm
okay, so we
missing,
have hear you, help
yeah. So it's
you,
hear
hump you.
you, help you, and I'm messing up one of the words. Like, do you need me to do something for you? Is the one that I'm messing up. It's another H. And then
I
the
got
fourth one is like, hey, I got to get this out of me. And so,
Yeah, sometimes that's what you
yeah,
need.
yeah. Sometimes that's what you need, and that's more like a spouse relationship thing. And I will, and maybe in the minute, in
Right.
the notes, I'll
You're
get
not
the
going to
four
help
H's
people.
right. But right now I've got three H's. These are three H's. Do you need me to hear you, help you, or hump you? And so,
Brian will help you with two of those, not the
yeah, and
third
I can
one.
help you with exactly two of those. Um, but
Oh my gosh,
maybe
I think
maybe
I think this is a perfect place to end it. Honestly,
yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
this is great.
All
Like
right, great.
we,
Before we
yeah,
go,
yes.
so we have all these bookshelves behind us today because
Mm.
I want to announce that Wes and I are both
Oh yeah,
terrible book club members, but we're gonna do it anyway.
we started book.
We started a book club. It's called the Do Better Book Club. We're starting here at Midstate CrossFit. I'm gonna push it over to Coast Range. The first book we're reading is called Good Energy. It's a little
Okay,
bit medicine dominant. It uses some big words sometimes. It's from um, uh,
you got it. You got it. There you go.
Cassie
There it is.
and Callie Means. One who was a physician out of the Stanford area.
Weren't they just
Wrote,
on the Joe Rogan podcast?
yes, yes, and they were just in
Okay.
front of Congress as well. And
Yeah. Okay.
she,
Talking
Cassie,
about food and all of the crap and everything that's going into it. Is that
it's
it?
fucked up. It's fucked up. It doesn't exactly
Bro,
correlate to what we're talking about today, but it does. It's
I heard a
very, very
statistic
similar.
the other. I heard a statistic the other day that we've had 50,000 chemicals introduced into our daily diet and food products and skincare products, and only 5 of those have ever been tested on actual humans, and
Mhm.
only 2 of those have ever actually been tested to see if they counteract with each other in negative ways.
Yeah. One in two Americans will be diagnosed as obese or overweight in the next. It's 78% of all Americans right now. I have a bunch of messed up stats.
Dude, it's
The most messed up stat that I read to really just double down on that hump part is if you are diabetic and obese, there is a very high likelihood, like an 80% likelihood, that you have zero sperm in your semen, that you are just infertile because you are diabetic and obese at a, let's say, like a average adult male age. And so when we talk about,
I
I'm
heard
sure
you
you
say
know,
something else about cancer too.
yeah, there's also 1 in 2. That's what it was. 1 in 2 Americans will have 50% of Americans will have a cancer diagnosis within their lifetime right now. 1 in 2. So it's a crapshoot between you and I, my friend.
And
And
that
we're
is
and we're
because
pretty
of the
healthy people.
chemicals that have been introduced into our diets and into our skincare products. So
So
the
we're learning
easiest
about,
thing that we can do
yep.
to help with any of this stuff, to help with your fitness, to help with your mental fitness, to help with your everything, is to eat one ingredient foods, things that come from the ground, things that come from a tree, things that have hooves, wings, or flippers. To get an hour of exercise with people that are like-minded and good music and sweating hard a day, and to sleep 8 hours.
And that'll make your brain better. And then
Oh my
maybe you'll
God,
have a
you will
little bit less
be.
PTS.
Well, think about it this way. You will be the top 12% of society because you will be part of the 78%. You won't be part of the 78% that is going to have cancer and be obese. You will be the 12% of the society. And if you just put yourself in that bucket, imagine how much better your life is going to be in so many different
And
ways
how much
because
will
you
you
decided,
identify? You're
yeah.
identifying with the 12 percenters.
So
So
identify with
I don't want to
us.
berate that too much. More to come on that. More to come on the Do Better Book Club. But if you would like to join us, join right now, whenever this gets posted, and buy the Do Better Book Club book of the whatevers. I don't know how long we read this book. I'm only on page 50, and it's Good Energy by Cassie Means, and it's really alarming, but also inspiring to know that like I'm the type of person that would read this book. I'm part of the people that would advocate to read this book. And that if people do read this book, maybe they'll have 1 or 2 meaningful changes that gets them to be part of that 12%.
Do you have a way that everybody communicates with each other in this book club?
No, this is brand spanking new.
Bro.
We're like, this is like the official public release.
Oh, dude, so here's what we
Only like
should
my
do
friend
then.
Ashley and my friend Amanda and Gabby, and now you know that there is a Do Better Book Club.
Okay, so then let's do this. Let's do better, and we're gonna put this out there. If you guys want to be a part of it, DM us on
Yep.
Instagram. Let us know, and we'll come up
Audiobooks
with a
allowed.
way to. Yeah, awesome, and we'll come up with a way to communicate about this.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think? Like maybe once every other week or once a
Yeah,
month or
I
something,
think we're gonna do
probably.
like once a month, like a Sunday,
I love
like the
it.
Sunday coffee Zoom about the whatever we're reading. And I don't think there's any hard and fast rules about anything because why would there be? We're just reading.
I love it. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you for hanging out with me and Brian this morning in our garages together. This is all fake in case you didn't know. I'm not a ghost. Um, and we hope that if you are somebody out there that is struggling with intrusive thoughts and there's things that take you over sometimes throughout the day that you know you're not alone, and that I hope you reach out to me. I hope you reach out to Brian. I hope you reach out to somebody for professional help. If you want to talk cannabis, please reach out to me. I'd love to talk cannabis. It's my fave. If you want to talk other stuff, reach out to Brian and or myself. We're always a resource for you guys. Always, no
Yeah,
matter what.
we
If
want to
that's
be we
physical
want to be
or
your
from,
coach. We want to
we
do
want
the
to be
thing.
your coach.
We want to
Oh
be
my
your
God.
friend. We want to be your advocate.
What
We
a
want to be your mentor.
great tagline right there. We want to be your coach.
Yep, I
That's
do.
awesome. All right, guys. We hope you have a great week and we will see you next week.
Hasta la pasta.